Hi, welcome to the 5 stories that increase year-end giving. This is going to be story strategies created for you, not just for Giving Tuesday, but for all of your year-end fundraising campaigns. My name is Donlyn, your favorite story alchemist with Alchemist Creative Company, and I'm so glad that you're here today. In this webinar today, I'm going to teach you how you can use that year-end urgency to play in your favor and why there's never been a better time than the last 2 months of the year to really reach your fundraising goals. And I'm going to share with you the 5 stories that you can frame for your company. I'm going to show you how to use all 5 in your story strategy. And then I'm also going to share with you the 3 mistakes that you're going to want to avoid that most other organizations do and end up falling flat. So grab your sword and supplies because we're going to go on this hero's journey together and find out exactly how you can increase your year-end giving. All right, I want to let you in on a little secret. You might not like this, but I'm going to tell you anyways. Good causes don't win support. Good stories do. But here's the truth most nonprofits don't want to admit. Most year-end campaigns fall flat, not because their mission isn't worthy. It's because their message blends in with all the other messages out there. It's a pretty fierce competition in the fundraising space. And when every organization says the same thing, no one stands out. The donor doesn't wake up thinking, how can I give another nonprofit $50 today or $50 million today? They're asking themselves, who speaks to my heart? Whose story moved me? Where do I feel connected? And that's where storytelling becomes an actual superpower, because your donors don't just want that data first. And don't get me wrong, I do think the data matters, and I think those facts matter, but what people remember are the stories behind those facts. They don't want to just look at your white papers. This training exists because the world doesn't need more donation emails. It needs more stories that move people. And when you pair emotion with strategy, that's when year-end giving becomes transformational instead of transactional. And transformational donors will become regular supporters. This is a golden opportunity to begin a conversation that carries on past the year's end. One of my favorite reminders in storytelling fundraising is this: great stories create connection, and connection creates contribution. People don't give because we ask. They give because they feel something, because they can see the change that you're creating in someone else's life. And at the very heart of every powerful donor relationship is one thing, and that's trust. Jeffrey Gitomer once said that people don't want to be sold, but people love to buy. And I think the same thing applies to donors and whenever we're trying to raise funds for our organizations. Donors love to give, but they don't want to be sold. They want to be moved. They're not looking for hype, pressure, guilt, or manipulation of any kind. They want to be moved. What they're looking for is a moment where they think, I see myself in this mission. This matters to me. I feel safe putting my resources here. And trust just isn't built through data alone. Again, like I said, yes, the numbers matter, but how are you presenting those numbers? It's not built through urgency countdowns and generic donation buttons. Trust is built through connection. So when someone hears a story and suddenly they feel that spark of recognition or empathy, they could say, oh, that could be my family or someone I love, someone like me moment. You're no longer asking them for money. You're inviting them into your hero's journey. And that is the shift that transforms giving from a transaction into a mutually beneficial relationship. Now, why am I talking about all of this? I'll introduce myself a little bit. My name is Donlyn. I have been in the nonprofit fundraising world for almost 2 decades. I started storytelling very young. I've learned how much stories move people to action. So you not only want to be like structuring your stories correctly, you want to have all the right elements moments. And so if you're not telling your stories correctly or telling stories at all, you're going to fall flat. So before we sharpen our swords and start crafting these 5 legendary fundraising stories, we need to understand why story works in the first place. Because storytelling isn't just creative, it's neuroscience, it's psychology, and human instinct all rolled into one. Stories, whenever we hear stories, it actually creates a cocktail of chemicals in our body. And whenever we are feeling good about something and we're feeling trust towards whoever's asking us to give, that story brings us to that place and we want to give. For most of human history, story wasn't entertainment, it was survival. Stories taught us who to trust, where danger lived, what mattered, and who we could become. So when we tell a story today, even in a fundraising email, we're tapping into the oldest communication system that the brain understands. Stories get remembered. Stories get shared. Stories stick. Secondly, emotion drives action. Logic informs, but emotion moves. The decision to give doesn't start in a spreadsheet part of the brain. It begins in the heart, and the heart sends the signal, this thing matters. Do something. When donors feel hope, urgency, compassion, pride, and belonging, their willingness to act skyrockets. The narrative reduces resistance naturally. If we lead with give now, the brain does what it's built to do, protect resources. It tightens, it analyzes, it hesitates. But a story lowers that shield, just like a knight offering open hands instead of a drawn sword. When someone is pulled into a narrative, they stop defending and they start imagining. And imagination is the doorway to generosity. So story isn't fluff. Story is a strategic tool, and every great quest has a beginning. And in fundraising, that moment, our call to arms is Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday kicks off the most powerful generosity season of the entire year. This isn't just a date on the calendar, it's Mel Gibson's speech in Braveheart. The donors are already arriving, they're ready to do good, they're ready to give, they're ready to be part of something meaningful. In 2025, that quest begins on December 2nd. Mark it, circle it, guard it like a treasure, because what you do leading into and on that day sets the tone for everything that follows. And here's why that moment matters so much. 24 to 47% of annual giving happens in November and December alone. Last year, $3.6 billion was raised on Giving Tuesday. That's a 16% increase from the year before. And up to 10% of all annual donations happen in the final 3 days of the year. 3 days. That means that year-end giving isn't just important, it's a once-a-year mission window. When we enter this season prepared with message clarity, compelling stories, and clear calls to action, we're not just fundraising, we're rallying the supporters, building momentum, and setting the tone for the entire year ahead. You have an open gate to creating repeat donors. And when we show up without strategy, we leave that impact, connection, and dollars on the table. One big push with extraordinary potential. We don't walk into the season casually. It takes time, thought, and persistence because the cause is worthy, the need is real, and the world is never more ready to give than right now. So every good quest requires a good map. And in year-end fundraising, these 5 stories are your compass, your sword, your shield, and your torch. Now, here's a really important thing to note. This is not about picking one favorite and then hoping that it carries you through your whole campaign. This framework works because each story has a role and each story builds on the next. Each story prepares your audience emotionally and strategically to give and to feel good about giving. Think of it as like it's assembling your team of knights. I'm going to drive this analogy into the ground. You don't only send the archer into battle. You bring the archer, the strategist, the warrior, the healer, the scout. Every story in this lineup serves a unique purpose. One builds trust, one sparks emotion, one shows impact, one creates vision, and one unlocks belonging and urgency. This is not an either or, it's all of them in the right sequence at the right moment. Just like in storytelling, timing is everything. The power isn't just in the message, it's in when that message arrives. Most nonprofits use one story and stop, and they hope that it lands. But the organizations who consistently win donor hearts and donor dollars use all 5 intentionally. And that's how you stop asking for support and start guiding donors on a journey that they feel honored to take with you. So let's walk through each of these. Number 1, the origin story. Every great quest begins with a calling. And for your organization, that calling, that spark, is your origin story. This is where you answer the most important question a donor has, even if they never say it out loud. Why do you exist? Not the polished mission statement, not the board-approved language, not the "we were founded in 1986 to serve" line. The real story. The moment something in the world wasn't okay and someone said, "This can't continue." And if no one else is doing something, well, we will. That's where connection begins. Because donors don't connect to organizations first, they connect to humanity, to your passion, to your purpose, the heart behind the work. Your origin story builds trust because it shows that you're not here by accident. You're here by conviction. It says, we saw a need, we stepped into the gap, we chose to care, and we still choose it every single day. The formula is simple but powerful. Why you exist. What problem were you determined to solve? What moment lit the fire that's still burning today? Tell that story. And when you do, donors don't feel like strangers that you're trying to persuade. They feel like companions joining you at the beginning of a noble journey, one that they want to be a part of. Story number 2, the internal problem story. Every quest has a dragon, and in your campaign, that dragon is the internal problem, the human struggle at the heart of your mission. This isn't just a surface level issue. It's not just the statistics or the program description. It's the emotional cost if nothing changes. Because donors don't give to avoid a number going up. They give to avoid human suffering, loss, fear, injustice, hopelessness. This story answers the question, what's at stake if we do nothing? Not in a gloom and doom kind of way, but in a real human, visceral way. Think about the people you serve. What pain do they quietly carry? What fear keeps parents awake at night? What future might unfold if support never comes? What hope disappears if help doesn't arrive? This story creates urgency because it makes it personal, not just important. It takes the donor out of a passive mindset and into a moment of recognition. If we don't step in, someone pays the price. And urgency isn't about pressure. Urgency is about purpose. It's reminding your supporters that this isn't just a worthy mission, it's a necessary one. The internal problem story does one thing brilliantly. It shows donors why their help matters right now, not someday. When done well, it activates their empathy, their courage, and their desire to be a part of the solution. Because every quest worth taking has something or someone worth protecting. And in this part of your campaign, you're inviting your donors to stand between the world as it is and the world as it could be. Story number 3 is the impact story. Every hero's journey has a moment of transformation, the scene where everything shifts, where the world becomes just a little bit brighter and we see what's possible. In fundraising, that moment is your impact story. And for your impact story, here's the key. Focus on one person, one life, and one before and after. Not a program, not a group, not hundreds of families or thousands served, one. Because scale impresses, but specifics move hearts. When a donor can picture a real person with a name, with a struggle, with a turning point, with a brand new chapter thanks to support, that's when the emotional connection locks in. This story answers the question donors are quietly asking: does this actually work? Not theoretically, not statistically, but measurably, tangibly, beautifully. And the most powerful impact stories follow a simple rhythm. Before, which is the struggle, the fear, the obstacle, then intervention, which is how your organization stepped in, and after, the transformation, a changed life, a renewed hope, a future reclaimed. When you tell a story like this, donors don't just understand your mission, they are witnessing the miracle of your work. This story turns giving into belonging. It proves their support isn't abstract, it's personal, meaningful, and real. And in that moment, donors don't feel like ATM machines. They never should. They feel like allies, champions, co-heroes in your mission. Story number 4, the community momentum story. Every quest becomes unstoppable when the village unites. Maybe with torches and pitchforks, but unite they will. In fundraising, that magical moment is your community momentum story. This is where you don't just show what you're doing, you're showing what we are doing together. Because humans are wired to follow community signals. We look for belonging, we follow energy, and we trust causes others already believe in. Your donor's inner voice isn't just asking, is this mission worthy? It's also asking, are people like me a part of this? That's social proof, not in a marketing gimmicky way, but in a deeply human way. We're tribal creatures. We take action when we see others moving with us. We feel safer giving when we know we're not the only ones stepping forward. So in this story, you highlight volunteers showing up, donors stepping in, corporate partners activating, community members sharing, momentum building around a shared goal. That's not bragging, it's invitation. You're saying join a movement that's already in motion. When donors see that others believe, they feel more confident in believing too. When they see others give, they feel inspired to give too. Momentum builds trust, momentum builds energy, momentum turns a mission into a movement. And year-end giving is the perfect time for this story because generosity is already in the air and people love to be part of something bigger than themselves. This story tells your supporters, you belong here, you're among friends, this is your community too. And once someone feels like they belong to your cause, they don't just give once, they stay. They advocate, they invest emotionally as well as financially. And the last of the 5 stories is the vision story. Every great quest isn't just about the battle in front of us, it's about the world we're fighting for. And in your year-end campaign, that world is expressed through your vision story. If the impact story shows what's possible today, the vision story shows what's possible tomorrow. This is where you paint a picture of the future your donors can help build, a future that feels hopeful and meaningful and worth committing to. Because donors don't want to just fix problems, they want to build possibility, a legacy, if you will. They want to feel like they're investing in a future where more children grow up safe and supported, more families thrive, more people have dignity and opportunity. More communities rise together. This story answers the quiet, powerful question in every donor's heart: what could we make possible together? And here's the key. It's not vague inspiration. It's a very specific, vivid, and emotionally resonant idea. Show them a future where the need is smaller because your work grew stronger. Hope becomes more accessible than hardship. Generosity creates generational change. Help them see it, feel it, and believe it's within their reach. And then connect it back to them, because vision isn't just about your organization. It's about who they become when they choose to stand with you. Not just donors, but co-creators for a better future. When you invite people into your vision, you're no longer asking them for support today. You're earning their belief for the long road ahead. And belief is the fuel that sustains missions and movements and miracles. This is where giving becomes legacy and where donors transform into lifelong allies. So now that we have our 5 stories, let's talk about the part where most campaigns either soar or stall. And that is story deployment. Because success isn't just telling great stories, it's telling the right story at the right moment. Think of this like a quest timeline. There are phases, emotional beats, moments that call for different strengths. And here's how we bring to life your year-end campaign. So for your big kickoff, you want to go with your origin and internal problem. So when the journey begins around Giving Tuesday, we start with our origin story, why you exist, and why this mission matters, and also your internal problem story. What's at stake if we do nothing? This sets the tone. It builds trust. It creates emotional urgency. It's the call to adventure. It's our rallying cry. As our journey continues, we move into our impact story, which is proof your mission creates real change, and your community momentum story. People like me are a part of this. This is your proof of magic moment. It's where donors see your work in action and see others already stepping forward. Momentum builds momentum, and excitement builds energy. And for our final quest at the end of the year, we want to use vision and invitation. So as we approach the final days, that critical window where you could earn up to 10% of your entire year's budget, we shift to the vision story, the future that we can build together, and the invitation to join. Clear, confident, heartfelt call to action. This is the final chapter of the quest, the moment where supporters understand this isn't just a donation, it's a legacy decision. I'm helping to shape the future. And then you invite them into that future with you, not pressured, not guilted, just inspired, empowered, and ready. When you layer these stories in this exact sequence, you don't just raise money, you're building belief, community, and momentum. You turn donors into champions, gifts into commitments, and a campaign into a movement. This is story as strategy. This is your fundraising heroic journey. And when you do it this way, your donors don't feel pursued. They feel invited, seen, inspired, and essential. But now that we've armed ourselves with the 5 essential stories and the map for using them, we're going to talk about the 3 common story mistakes. Before we charge forward into glory, let's pause and talk about the 3 traps that many campaigns fall into. Every hero's journey has pitfalls, and knowing them means you don't accidentally fall in the moat while everyone's cheering from the castle walls. Here are the big 3. Mistake number 1, too many facts and not enough feeling. Data is important, it builds credibility, but data alone doesn't move hearts. So remember, people don't give because of numbers, they give because of the meaning behind those numbers. If your message reads like a report instead of a story, donors stay in their heads and not in their hearts, and people take action from the heart first. Mistake number 2, generic copy. We serve the community, we provide resources, we make a difference. Sound familiar? When language could belong to any organization, it connects to no one. Your story should feel unique, human, specific to you. That if a donor can swap in another nonprofit's name and nothing changes, the message isn't yet alive, and you've got some work to do. Mistake number 3 is no narrative strategy. This is a big one. Some organizations think storytelling means sprinkling a feel-good anecdote here and there, but powerful fundraising campaigns are not random, they're intentional. Right story, right moment, right emotional arc. Just like our quest, there is a rhythm, a sequence, a purpose to each chapter. When you tell stories in the right order, donors don't feel pushed, they feel guided. They feel led with clarity, invited into meaning, pulled forward by purpose and not pressure. Avoid these 3 pitfalls, and your message becomes not just a story, but a journey that donors are excited to take with you. So let's recap. You now have the 5 stories that transform your year-end campaign, not through pressure, but through purpose. And when you use these stories in the right order at the right moment, you don't just communicate your mission, You mobilize people to live it with you. So, if this has sparked ideas, if it's helped you think about your campaign differently, I want to take a moment to support you even further, because knowing the strategy is one thing, but actually knowing how to implement it quickly and confidently is where the real results come to life. So, I built something that takes everything we talked about today and it puts it into a system that you can use immediately. No guessing, no staring at the blank screen, no wondering, what do I post next? Just a plug and play storytelling that follows this exact framework so you can go into Giving Tuesday and the year end with clarity, confidence, and momentum. Everything's built around this system that we just walked through, so you'll never be wondering which story to tell and when or how to structure it. I've designed it to help you move from, I hope this campaign connects, to, I have a clear narrative strategy and I know exactly how to execute it. Whether you're a team of one or a full development department, this gives you the structure, the storytelling power, and the momentum you need to stand out in the most important fundraising season of the year. Because your mission deserves more than, I hope this works, and it deserves a story strategy that moves people, mobilizes support, and builds real community around your cause. And if that's not enough, then you can do a one-on-one strategy session with me, the Story Alchemist, if you need deeper support. If you want someone in the trenches with you, helping you refine your story, shape your year-end narrative, and walk you into this season with clarity, I also offer a one-on-one story strategy session. I keep these extremely limited so I can be fully present for each organization. And it includes not just the one-on-one call, but I help map out the plan for you, do my homework for you, and it gets you on the right road. And I help you work through production if that's what you need. If you'd like one of these spots, you'll see the link to apply. We'll make sure it's the right fit, and then we'll go to work crafting the story strategy that feels aligned, inspired, and compelling for your needs. Thank you so much for being here with me today. You showed up not just to raise funds, but belief and connection and to raise a community of supporters. And the work that you do in the world matters. And the way you tell the story is how others will learn to believe in it too. My hope is that you leave today feeling more equipped, more inspired, and confident in your ability to guide your donors on a meaningful journey, because you aren't just asking for support, you're inviting people into impact, into purpose, into a future that they can help shape. The world needs your mission. And when you lead with story, you don't walk alone. You build fellowship around your cause. So take this framework, take this clarity, take this courage, and go tell the story that only you can tell. Thank you again for being here. It's been an honor to walk on this quest with you. And have fun storming the castle.